Hello, you're listening to Truth in Motion. This is episode 2. I'm smiling a little because I'm still learning what I'm doing. I'm using my phone to record, haven't figured out background music, and honestly, that just feels perfectly on theme for today because today is rhythm and regulation as real life, not just as a concept. Here's what I mean. A lot of us think we need a huge surge to begin anything, a big emotional push, a burst of motivation. And yes, motivation is real. It has a purpose. It can really light the match. But if we rely on that match every time, we are going to burn out. Or we stall. Or we end up doing that thing where we hype ourselves up, crash, and then feel bad about it. Yeah, that cycle is exhausting. Now, rhythm is what actually can make this livable. I'm not saying rhythm is a strict routine. It is not something where you force yourself into a schedule. It's more of a repeatable relationship with your own energy. It is what you can come back to even when you're not in the mood, even when you're just sensitive, even when life is so loud. And rhythm is something that's already present. It's not something that was ever invented. Breath has rhythm. The heart has rhythm. Sleep, hunger, focus, emotion, creativity, all of it moves. It rises, it dips, it returns, it changes shape. That doesn't mean anything is moving differently all the time. That's just what being alive looks like. Nature does not apologize for being cyclical. Seasons do not try to be summer all year. Trees don't panic when they drop leaves. Birds don't negotiate with winter. They adapt, they move, they wait. And they come back around when it's time. And if you watch the birds, you'll see it. Certain ones show up at certain hours. They have their own timing. It's not perfect, it's not constant, but it is consistent enough that the world makes sense to them. At least, the one that they live. That's part of what rhythm does for us. It gives our own system something it can recognize consistently, something familiar. And then that it can trust that. When we say regulation, we don't mean becoming calm all the time. We mean the body can handle what's happening without falling apart or going numb. So regulation is capacity. It's being able to feel things without being swallowed by them. And rhythm supports that because your body responds to repetition. Because repetition is kind of a reassurance. If you do one small thing at a similar time each day, your body is going to start to believe you. If you move your body in a way that feels good more than once, your body starts to expect relief. Now, if you go outside and actually look at the sky, even for 2 minutes, something in you remembers you live on Earth. That matters more than people think. And now I'd like to talk about non-linear minds, because this is where it can get very personal. ADHD is not something that's going to move in straight lines. It moves in patterns, intensity, depth, sudden focus, sudden boredom, huge creativity, and then nothing. It can look chaotic from the outside, but it's not random at all. It's just non-linear. And take this from someone who was diagnosed with ADHD in her adulthood, not knowing a lot about it until 4 years ago. And also, let's add to that autism level 1. And that's going to add another layer that's going to give you sensitivity to sound, light, shifts, texture, social energy, you name it. Now, it's different for every single individual, because I love sound, I love music, I love to dance. But the world can feel too much, too fast, and too constant. I agree to that. So when someone just says, be consistent, just be disciplined, just make sure that you do it the same way to convince your brain, well, it can feel like they're speaking a language anyone with non-linear mind will not understand. So here's what I found. Rhythm is definitely different than consistency. Consistency sounds like you have to be doing the same thing almost at the same time every single day, or consistently doing it daily. Rhythm, however, lets you change shape without losing yourself. Rhythm gives a non-linear mind a way to stay connected to life without being trapped inside the box of consistency. It can be simple, like a song that brings you back into your body, so then the mind can quiet for a second. It can be a morning walk where you notice birds, for example. Or it can be drinking water before coffee in the morning. Yeah, it's very, very good for your body. It can be stretching for 2 minutes while you wait for the kettle when you make tea, for example. Or you dance for one song in the kitchen, not for anyone, just to move whatever feels stuck a little bit, and then make space so your mind is not ruminating on something, or your mind is not trying to make you feel bad because you're not consistent. So music, it's part of how I get to regulate, and it changes the temperature in my body, it changes my mood without having to talk myself into it. I pick one song and it can turn into, a quick movement. One beat can actually help with the breath. And it's so real. And when I dance, it's truly rhythm made visible. And it's absolutely not about being good at it. It's about letting the body do what it already knows how to do. because the body was rhythmic before we had language, before we had opinions, before we had trauma stories. It knew the timing of how to move and what to do. So this is why rhythm matters more than motivation for a lot of us. Motivation is a visitor, and rhythm is a relationship. So I would say motivation is the yes, and the rhythm is what carries the yes into life. And I want to say something clearly here. Rhythm does not erase rest. Rest is part of rhythm. Because there are days when the rhythm is doing less, and that's the right kind of motivation for us. Slower, quieter, softer. Not because you're failing or you're too tired, but because your body is telling the truth. And yes, it can be that you're too tired, but then you have to listen to the body and say, okay, I'm not pushing right now. Maybe I just need to go slower, quieter, do a lot less. We live in a world that keeps asking for constant output, constant speed, constant availability. And it makes people feel like something is wrong with them when they can't keep up. But Earth itself does not live like that. Animals aren't living like that. Or plants. And the tides do not stay high all day. They come in and they go back out. They're rhythmic. They're not broken because they recede. So, if you're the kind of person who has to find your way back over and over again, welcome. That's not a flaw. That might just be your design. And then again, motivation. I'm going to add it back in here in a way that actually makes sense. Motivation is really sparks things. It gives you momentum. Rhythm, however, is what keeps you close to yourself when you don't have the motivation available. Rhythm is what makes sure you don't abandon your body just because your mind is loud. Rhythm is what makes creativity possible without self-destruction, basically. And honestly, if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, but how do I find rhythm? Well, here's the least glamorous answer. Start where it's already happening. Notice what you do naturally. What calms you without effort? What is that helps you feel more like you? Then do one small piece of that again. Not perfectly, just again. And that's how rhythm forms. And yes, we can make this deep and spiritual and symbolic because it is. But it's also extremely practical. This is how you live. This is how you stay human. This is how you stay connected to something bigger without floating away from your actual life. And since this is episode 2 only, I'll keep it simple. If you're in a season where motivation is not showing up, you're not doomed. Look for rhythm. Look for what repeats in nature. Look for what repeats in you. And look for what can bring you back. And if today all you do is breathe slower once, or step outside once, or play one song and let your body move a little, That all counts. That is rhythm. That is regulation. And yes, I'm still figuring it out too. Thank you for being here. I'll talk to you in the next episode.